Today is March the 8th, and that's International Women's Day. And 2 days ago, it was the anniversary of my father's death. And for some weird reason, the two are connected in my mind. But yeah, I always remember it. I always remember on March the 6th that this was the day when my dad died. And it has lots of complicated feelings about it, I think. He's obviously a very important person in my life. But a very complicated man, and had a bit of an interesting life, really. And we had an interesting life with him. So, the biggest thing, I suppose, in his life was that he fought in the Second World War while he was in the RAF. And he was a flight engineer of a Lancaster that was shot down over Germany in 1944. And he was a POW from April 1944 till April 1945. So it was a year of the war, and it wasn't a good year to be a POW. Not that I think there were any good years, but that was the wind down, no food, Russians coming, Germans terrified, everything falling apart, lots of movement. So he was marched around Germany, and especially at the end when he was quite weak, I think. I mean, my dad, I'm surmising a lot of this. My father only told me about this once. So I'm looking at pictures and I'm reading things that he wrote at the time. And it's like putting together pieces of a man, because I never got it all together straight from him. So yeah, I mean, but it is amazing to have a collection of the little postcards that he wrote from POW camp, which were obviously written in a certain way, because they were to his mother and father, and especially his mother. He didn't want to scare her, but I've seen a picture of him when he was liberated, and I think he'd lost something like 2.5 stone, so he was extremely thin and poorly looking. I think the time when I most celebrated him was actually when, I mean, obviously we had a funeral, and people came, and his ashes are buried underneath the apple tree in my mum and brother's garden, although my mum's dead now also, but my brother still lives there. So there's an apple tree, which you can sort of think of Dad underneath. But there was a time a few years ago when my daughter and I went to Germany, to the place where he was actually captured, where he was shot down, and there was we met this guy who had actually gathered bits of aeroplane, so he gave me a piece of my father's plane, which is quite special. But there were also other people, relatives of the crew members, and we all stood in this forest together in silence for a couple of minutes, and it was quite sort of eerie and amazing, actually. And all these, like there were the old trees, but there were also all these little new trees popping up. And sort of to be there with my daughter was very special because, and to think about their sacrifice and what they did for us, really, at that time. And he survived, God bless him. So that was a great thing, and I celebrate that, obviously, every day. Here I am. Thanks, Dad. It's just in family stories that probably we most think about our loved ones. That there are the ceremonies and the big things, but then there's the kind of, I can remember my dad's little sayings, and that's almost like a strange haunting, isn't it, when they come into your mind and you think, oh yeah, hi Dad. And also, things that you say yourself, you think, oh yeah, I know where that comes from. So, yeah. So they're not exactly ghosts, but they're always present, like ancestors, aren't they? The Man Who Fell to Earth. My daughter shows me the steps she learned at Irish dancing. She holds her hands tight to her sides while her legs skip like a marionette's. Her chin is high and her blue eyes shine with concentration. My father's eyes, high altitude blue, the piece of sky he brought with him, parachuting down to earth after the Lancaster burned. What else perished in the wreckage, leaving a Cyberman with a mechanical laugh cranked out staccato from the slit mouth under a horsehair moustache? The well-oiled voice, purloined from a music hall toff, delivers slick cliches as the pints slide down. That's the ticket. Everything's shipshape. Hi-de-hi. Whose tune does he dance to on Douglas Bader's legs as his own song drifts away above the fuming clouds like the dying froth on the head of his beer? His eyes still mirror the glimpsed meridian. He never made it to the stars, but lay in a ditch, cocooned in silk, dematerializing as the dawn broke, an invisible man in hiding behind the uniformed effigy, fueled by booze for the rest of his days. Sometimes I see a crew of careless heroes, jackets unbuttoned, caps pushed back from boyish foreheads, the arrogance of youth upon their smiling lips. These lads will come for Dad one day, their eyes blue as a Magritte sky, and fly him home.